Going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Life is one of the heaviest beams one can try to support. It is known to go through storms that contain heavy winds and downpours. But you are built to stand and not collapse. I challenge you to grow out of your comfort zone. The biggest giant you will ever face in life is your mindset. One of the biggest things that limit us and keep us defeated is the opinion we have of ourselves. When I changed my mind, it changed my life. I didn't just survive, I bounced back better. Bounce 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 back better.
Happy Sunday. Today, I have some great brothers up here, and we're going to be talking about fatherhood and leaving a legacy behind. Before we go any farther, take the time to share out this post, click that share button, share it with all of your friends. If you know some people that don't have Facebook, but they do have YouTube, access to YouTube, tell them to go to @LifeStruction with Eric and connect with us on YouTube as well for this great discussion today. Hope everyone is having a great Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. I'm not going to lag along. We're going to get right to it. Today we have with us Pastor Maurice A. Smith, Jeffrey Johnson, Mike Brown, and Sean Freeman. Welcome to the broadcast, guys. Say hello to the LifeStruction family.
Hello.
Yes, sir. So, Pastor Smith, we're going to start with you first. How many kids do you have exactly?
I was blessed to have 3 children. I have 2 boys and a girl sandwiched in the middle.
Okay. Good deal. And Mr. Johnson, Brother Jeffrey, how many kids do you have?
Yes, sir. God has blessed me with 4.5 girls. I say a half because I got one on the way and could be possibly a girl.
So. Well, I hope you didn't just jinx yourself because I know how bad you want that boy. So hopefully this time right here is going to be a charm. So, yeah. And Brother Mike Brown, what about yourself?
Well, I've been blessed with 3, one biological, 2, but all my children. 1 boy, 9 years old, the youngest, 14-year-old girl, and a 15-year-old boy.
Okay, good deal. And Brother Sean Freeman, I know you're not a father, but you are not yet, but it's coming. But what you are is a high school football coach. So, I know you're like a father figure to many.
I try to be, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm going to start with Brother Mike Brown here. Tell us, what do you remember most about your own dad?
Being that our relationship was kind of rough coming up,
okay.
But I think anything that my dad did with me is fishing. I can, Oakland, California. I grew up in Oakland, California, born in Mississippi, but grew up in Oakland, California. But I just remember my dad always taking us behind the racetracks, and we used to catch sharks and stingrays over there. But always went fishing with my dad. And if anything, I can think about a lot of negative things that went on with my dad and I. When I think about good times, things that we did together, and also seeing my dad, I watched him do things to other people. And I really believe that where my servant's heart comes from, or just seeing someone do. My dad is the type of guy that would have gotten up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, came and changed your tire for you. But fishing is the thing that comes to mind for me, is fishing.
Okay. Okay. And what about you, Jeffrey?
Thing I remember most about my dad is the work ethic. My dad from childhood up to now, he's a hard worker. He just retired last year, which is a good thing, but of course he's still working. He has his own heating and cooling business. And so his work ethic, entrepreneurship, and just overall love. He showed tough love, as a kid growing up. And just the things he instilled in me, I try and instill in my girls and even cousins, don't matter who it is. The love and support he showed me, work ethic, everything. I still, pass that along to the kids and anybody around me, really. So.
Yes, definitely. And that's what it's all about, passing on, the positivity from one generation to another. And I know you, very, very hard worker. So, yeah, definitely. And what about you, Brother Freeman? Sean?
My father and I, when we first coming up, we were a little bit strained. We've done a better job now of getting back together and reconnecting. The biggest father was my grandfather, Mr. Levi Morgan. That was my biggest contributor of me coming up as a young man, teaching me how to work hard. And he always would tell me, coming up since my teenage years, when you work hard, enjoy the perks of working. Don't always pay bills and whatnot. Make sure you're good, but always take a little piece of your paycheck and put it on yourself because you deserve that. So that's always been a part of something I grew up with. His instillings, his vision of what he wanted for his grandsons coming up. So I'm hoping I'm making them proud right now.
Good deal. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
And Pastor Smith.
Yes, sir. My father was a tough nut, but caring. The thing I really remember about my father is that he was really consistent in the things that he did. Very dedicated. Like Sean, he coached football, basketball, baseball in our community. And when I was younger, seeing people look up to him and him being a father figure to a lot of people that were in the community that didn't have fathers. At first, when I'm younger and I really didn't understand, it was kind of a struggle trying to share my father. But as I got older, I understood, the influence and the impact because, people would come up to me and tell me, that, things that my father did that I had no idea that he had done for people. And, it began to, kind of set in with me, like I said, as I got older and, just now trying to set an example, in a different, through a different means, in the church, but still trying to be an impact on, those that don't have fathers in, my own community.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I'm just going to ask one brother to kind of answer this question, and then if anyone else wants to chime in on it, I'm gonna start with Mike. Do you think dads today have it easier or harder than dads of previous generations?
Trying to think about my grandfather and my dad, how they fathered. My grandfather, when I have a lot of memory of my grandfather. He was the only person who worked in the household. My grandma stayed at home pretty much, so I remember him coming home, leaving in the morning, coming home for lunch, coming home for dinner, and basically just taking care of everyone in the household. And thinking about fast forward to today, I believe we make a lot more money than what our parents did. So we have a lot more resources. I think, we can work the hours that we work and make the money that we make, and we can pay to take care of our children. We can pay a nanny, we can pay a daycare. But back then there was you had neighbors, I believe, that would watch us from time to time. But overall, it was my grandma, and I think that in a lot of ways we have it a little easier than what they had it back then. And I think we sometimes that we take for granted all of the ache and pain and struggle that they went through to make it easier for us. I have hung on my wall in my closet. I created a little collage in there for myself, and it's just all motivational things I can see in the morning before I leave. Excuse me. And one of my pictures is a picture of my great grandmother, my great grandfather, and my Uncle Ray. And I've had a chance to meet all three of them before they passed away. Was pictures of them in Mississippi picking cotton. you saw it, you would think slavery right away, but neither one of them were ever slaves, but that's how they made their money. And my Uncle Ray told me one day, he said, son, he's a nephew, if we didn't need it for transportation, we killed it and we ate it. And that was from birds to, he said, we wouldn't kill a horse because we needed a horse for transportation. He said, but you name it, rabbits, possums, raccoons, whatever it was, if we didn't need it for transportation, we would kill it and eat it. So thinking about just home right now, I can call Uber Eats or DoorDash and have my food delivered, a full meal delivered to my family, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we have easier, I believe, than parents did.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah. That's nice way to break it down. Because I feel the same way. We definitely make more money, and there's definitely way more resources available, for us. So definitely. Pastor Smith, how do we encourage fathers that aren't actively involved in their children's lives, to be a little more involved?
You know what? That's a really good question. One of the things that I see a lot, especially me being in New York, I'm in the suburbs, not in the inner city, but the suburb that I live on Long Island, and it's more of a suburb with an inner city mentality. So the thing that I see a lot is that the problem we have is trying to redevelop mindsets, because a lot of times it comes from a mindset because of what they've witnessed themselves, and trying to allow them to see that the child that I don't want to say raised, they're not raising, but the child that they brought into this world don't really deserve the same thing that you were given, that you have an opportunity and a fresh perspective that you could, share with this child, and like it kind of ties into the other question too, because, like you said, in this day and age, it's a little easier, because we don't have to struggle the way our parents and their forefathers struggled. But for younger guys now, we have to understand that the culture that they are reared in is the same culture that they're going to raise their children in. Right. And it's something that they were nurtured in and something that they developed themselves. So we kind of sometimes come to them in the form of how we were raised. And we were raised completely different. I shared with my children before that my daughter this morning asked me about the ages my parents were when I was born. And my mother was 27, my father was 35. But my mother was born in the 40s, my father was born in the 30s. But their culture was so far removed from mine. Even though my mother was very young, 27 years old, her culture was completely different from mine. But nowadays our cultures are so close together. Yes. We kind of share music, we share clothing, we share styles, we share a lot of habits. So today it's a little easier in trying to, if we can understand from the perspective of them being raised differently from us, that we can kind of slowly and progressively try to change the mindset, because you're not going to change the culture, but you can change the mindset. True. But it has to be something that's done progressively, and it has to be done with gentleness, and it has to be done with respect. And a lot of times, coming down on kids like, our parents came down on us may not work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Definitely true. Yeah. And it's definitely a different generation, different time. And, I totally agree. Some of the ways we were raised, you can use some of that, but some of it just won't work today. It just won't work. Definitely. Sean, so tell me, who do you seek advice from? What do you consume or read to stay encouraged to be an outstanding man and father figure?
I look at a lot of my mentors growing up. Unfortunately, my grandpa's no longer with us. I talk to my dad. We talk almost every week. He was a coach down here in Phoenix as well too. But a lot of my mentors growing up, a lot of my old coaches, some of my old teachers, just to kind of get a gauge of if I'm doing it right, And it's funny because I have a mentor by the name of Larry Ross, and he said, "You'll never know if you're doing it right. You're gonna know from experience. You're gonna know how that child's gonna react to you, or what they do will tell you what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong, and you're gonna know off just the expression or how a child reacts to you, And in that place, like I said, you got to look at it. A lot of things that I grew up with or I grew up understanding will not work today, and it's very true. So just being able to reach out to certain mentors. I'm a more see it, believe it type person. There's books out there that can tell you, no, but that's from somebody else's experience. If I see it myself and I'm able to go through it and know somebody that's been through it themselves and sit down with them and break it down to them, I'm more likely to do that than sit down and read a book from somebody that's probably not in my realm or knows what we're going through right now. So I rather seek out people to help, ask questions. I'm never afraid to ask questions. I'm not perfect, but I always seek out somebody that can give me some advice to help me in a situation when it comes to mentoring or helping a young person I teach or coach.
Good deal. Good deal. And you want to chime in on that question, Jeff?
As far as speaking the language or the question about who I go to for.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty much. Who do you seek out?
Question about who I go to. Feedback in there, but I still go to my dad to this day. I call him, whenever situations get tough, or if I got a question about, hey, how did you do this? When it happened to you, kind of like what Sean was saying. You kind of want to talk to somebody that's been there, that's been there through it and can kind of relate to where you're coming from. And, they said apple don't fall too far from the tree. So a lot of times, growing up, I was like, man, I'm not going to be like my dad. When I grow up, I'm going to do it this way. You know what I mean? But like I said, it was a little bit of tough love, and I still go to him to this day. Like I said, when times get hard and things like that, he's able to coach me through. And honestly, I got a wonderful wife that I talk to as well. She's able to, coach me through certain situations and say, hey, maybe you should look at it this way, because I may have a certain way that I want to go about it that may not be the best way. You know what I mean? So we'll sit down and talk. And so kind of what they say, it takes a village. To this day, even being men, it still takes a village, to make the right decisions and kind of guide you through life. So,
amen. Eric, can I add to that question there?
Definitely.
Today being Father's Day, I mean, I'm not a huge, I guess, advocate of Father's Day, Mother's Day. And the reason why I say that, I think that, throughout the year, we should always give honor to our mothers and our fathers.
Yes, sir.
Today in particular, there's a man by the name of Ray Jackson. When I was 14, 15 years old, Ray was the man that I would go to the YMCA to play ball every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 hours at a time. Well, I would go an hour early just to scoot around and talk to Ray. And when I would talk to Ray, I would cry, I would laugh. Mm-hmm. I would always go to Ray to talk to Ray about what was going on in my household, about my mom and dad, the domestic violence. But that man was always there for me. Ray has kicked me out of the gym and welcomed me back in, from fighting, playing basketball. But I knew he loved me. I never disrespected that man. If I raised my voice, he pointed me, voice to get a little stern. But there was always a respect that I have for Ray. And to this day, and every single Father's Day, this morning, I'll receive a text message from Ray. And so I sent him an audio message this morning, which I need to go visit him. But just that man was always there for me. And I believe that God, number one, God knows our beginning and he knows our end and everything that's going to happen in between that. From Ray to Jeff, from Brookdale Recreation Center to Shorty. Shorty was a guy who worked at the Recreation Center. But these are men that I know that God strategically just placed in my pathway because he knew that I would need someone to talk to. And, I've never turned to drugs. I've never turned to violence or gangs, and thank God I never did that. I turned to other things. My addiction for me was love. I wanted someone to love me because I didn't get it from my dad. And however that looked, you would tell me you love me and didn't even mean it. I knew you probably didn't mean it, but still I would believe it. It was something I just had to hear in my head. But Ray was somebody that always was there for me to speak the truth to me and to speak it to me in love. I think about, God disciplines those that he loves. Well, Ray was there to discipline me too. Because like I said, when I would get into arguments, my temper was bad because I had a lot of built up anger inside of me, and basketball was a safe haven. I could take it out on the basketball court, But Ray was one that always was there for me. And I need to do this more often, calling him and just saying to him, thank you, checking on him, seeing how he's doing. I was sharing with a friend of mine that, the Bible gives us as men that are fathers, he gives us instructions how to be a father, that we should be fathers to our kids. And the Bible also says for all men to be a father to the fatherless.
Yeah, right.
And that man was definitely a father to me and has been to this day. And God gives me $1 billion. That's one man that I would pay for whatever he needed because he was there for me, bro. He saved me in a lot of ways.
Wow. Yeah. Well, hats off to Mr. Ray. And that's and what Mike just said about if God gave him $1 billion, he's not, without a shadow of a doubt, I know before he did anything for himself, he would go over it because that's just the type of guy he is. He'll take care of something out of us because he already know all of his is already blessed. Right. So, wow, hats off to Mr. Ray, and we thank him for, the great job he did when you needed, some structure. That's a beautiful thing. So let's see. Pastor Smith, what's the easiest thing and the hardest thing about being a father?
The easiest thing pretty much is, loving your children. For me, and that's the easy thing. When we were younger, we get angry, at our parents, we would always say, well, I didn't ask you to be here. Or, now becoming a parent and you see it from their perspective, it's funny, but that's the easiest thing. It really is easy to love on your children. My parents weren't like the touchy-feely kind of people. So, my wife and her family were, so I kind of had to learn from her, how to show more affection to, because some people need it. And so, yeah, it became easier for me to do it. And so that was easy. And the most difficult thing is, I think, how can I say, watching your kids make mistakes. And sometimes having to, ease back and not, always want to jump and say, my kids are a little older. My oldest is 27, my daughter's 25, and my youngest is 23. So, sometimes, when they make mistakes, even at, when the age that they are in now, they're closer to 40 than they are 20. So it's difficult sometimes to say, you want to step in because you are mom, you are dad, but sometimes, they have to stand on their own 2 feet because you have to question or ask yourself, well, when's the cutoff? When do we stop? At what age or at what point in their lives do we say, well, we have to stop being, Captain Save My Child and, let them fend for themselves. So, yeah, that's probably the most difficult thing.
Yeah. That spoke volumes right there. It kind of brought me back to my oldest daughter. We try not to put our kids too high on the pedestal, but at the same time, she's been, a great daughter. She's in school right now. She has her head on straight. I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, I think I'm the only guy that's pushing 52 that's not a grandparent, basically that went through the school, from the school that I grew up in. Everybody is grandparents and great-grandparents, and I'm like, hey, I'll wait. I want her to, get her career straight, enjoy it, before she go that route. And she tells me right now, she's like 30 is the earliest that I'm even thinking about having a kid, but what you just said about seeing them hurt, and one of the things that I, pretty much had to throw in the forefront with her is because my oldest daughter is from my first marriage. So, it was a little break there, but, we were able to rebuild, our relationship. And one of the first things, it was like, okay, so I don't, texting is okay sometimes, but I need to physically hear your voice. I need to hear your voice from time to time, so then we corrected that, when we get to talk, and she was in a relationship with this guy and he really hurt her, and, she's, very, very, she believes in the word, she reads the word, she lives scripture. That's her, but sometimes when it comes to that thing called love, and that person is right here, it's hard to just zip it up and push them all the way out. So, she kind of, tried to give him another shot, and same thing, it happened again. And, I had to tell her, I was like, darling, it hurts me to hear you are hurting. I said, but one of the things that you said to me was because she's in her last year of pharmacy school. And I was like, this last year, and you're almost there. I was like, you don't need any distractions right now. I said, so what will happen sometimes with God? When I'm not going to say sometimes, almost 99% of the time, when God keeps speaking to you and he knows that you're connected to him and he keeps speaking to you and showing you all of these obstacles, then he's going to send one that's going to sure enough gut you out and you're going to really feel it. And that's going to be confirmation that you need to walk away. Unfortunately, it happened like that, and my heart hurt for her. It was very hard for me. But at the same time, I felt good, to have my daughter, confide in me and talk to me about it. And I could give her guidance on it. But, because, sometimes today kids hold stuff like that in,
Yes.
And not only will they hold it in, they'll hold it in until that pain gets so gut-wrenching. Before you know it, some of them, if they're weak enough and they don't reach out to someone, they'll take their own life from it. Yeah. So, that's one of the things that I always tell, man, keep that open relationship with your kids. Keep that open relationship with them. Always let them know that they can talk to you. And like we were talking about before we went live, sometimes, when they're going through something, it's good to just go in that room, shut the door, and just sit and say, talk to me. Don't say nothing to them. Just let them get it out. Yeah. Let them get it out. Because sometimes when you speak too quick, now you're being judgmental. And the first thing they say, see, that's why I didn't even want to talk to you about it. Let them get it out. Let them get it out. So, yeah, it's hard. But at the same time, when you have that open communication, you're able to give them advice, and like Jeffrey said earlier, and then when they get older and they're faced with that situation, they'll remember these times that they talk to us about it, and they'll know how to sit down and talk to their kids about it.
That's right.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. So how important is spiritual guidance and prayer in fostering your relationship with your children? Jeffrey, you want to take that one?
Yeah, it is extremely important. Like you said, kind of lays those ground rules and always give you something to fall back on. When we have those difficult times, you let them know, hey, even if I can't be here for you, God is always going to be there for you. Teach them how to pray. Yeah, teach them how to pray and what to pray for. Teach them when to pray. Like I said, if difficult times that they don't feel comfortable talking to mom or dad about, you still let them know, like, hey, I'm here for you. I'll do anything for you. You can come to me for advice, but luckily, we're blessed to have a 2-parent household to where you can't talk to dad, go talk to mom. You can't talk to mom, talk to grandparents. Can't talk to grandparents, talk to God, and you can talk to God between all of them.
Yeah. I love that.
It's important to, let them know that, hey, God is the foundation. It's good to set that foundation. And, me growing up being a kid, my dad and mom set that foundation for me. So, That's only right, you know, and good to share with your kids as well. So.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Talk to God in between all of them. That's good. That's good. And you got any input on that, Mike?
Yeah, actually, I do. Well, coming from someone, I always say the best thing that my mom and dad could have ever done for me, that my mom could have done for me, because she was the one who took me to church. I said, she's the one who gave me God, you know, and from birth up until where I am now, you know, maybe about 10 years ago, I can say that I actually have a relationship with God now. But prior to that, not seeing, you know, God in the house, not seeing a father praying, since we're talking about fathers today, not seeing a father praying, not seeing a father go to church, not seeing a father read the word, that was extremely tough for me, you know. And I didn't grow up with mom and dad in the house going to church together on Sundays, praying together. I didn't see those things. So fast forward for me, that led me through 3 divorces. And each one of those divorces, I was looking for love again that I did not get from my dad, you know. And it was like a drug to me, you know. I just wanted someone to love me, you know. But when I actually found God, when I say found God, meaning formed a relationship with God, I remember exactly where I was at when it happened, you know. And I remember falling on my knees and saying, God, I need you. I need you more than anything. And I remember reading 2 Corinthians 12:9 about God's grace, his love being sufficient for me, is all that I needed. And when I'm weak, he's strong. And when I really began to just like, how God, you can fill all these holes that my dad didn't fill. You know, you can love me, but my dad didn't love me, but I can see my dad. I can touch my dad. God, I can't see you, you know. And I was an adult saying this to myself. But when I really began to read the word and try to apply it, a lot of trial and error, you know, but started to apply it and really see God, experience God. Man, that was a game changer for me. You know, it became a point where I was depending on human beings for something. I can turn to God for that. Whenever they let me down, I can turn to God. You know, but that spiritual foundation, I believe, it is very, very, very important. And right now, my children, all 3 of my children, but definitely my biological son, he's seen me serve since he was in a car seat. I would take him to the mission with me to drop off water to the homeless there. I would take him on the streets with me to hand out sandwiches to the poor there. And I remember one day my son said to me, we were camping, and he says, Dad, the ladies drove up next to us at the campsite. And I said, you guys take our firewood and give it to them. And he said, why, Dad? I said, well, we'll get more wood. We'll get more wood. I said, well, give it to the ladies for right now. And I came back, and he was 8 years old at the time. He said, Dad, that's the reason why I want to be like you when I get older. I said, what do you mean? I thought he was talking about because I work for an airline. We fly for free. Because he was the coolest thing ever. And he said, no, Dad, because you serve people. And this was the 8-year-old saying this to me. Well, I said, son, that's great. I said, but do you know where Daddy gets this from? He said, where? I said, from Jesus, from God. I said, Jesus wants us to serve people. He wants us to love people. I said, no, I have to be in agreement with that. I have to choose to do that. I said, but as far as my instructions, my guidance, where I get it from, it comes from God. So having spiritual guidance in our lives, I can experience God loving me, showing me grace, showing me mercy. And right now, as a father, trying to show that same grace and mercy to my children, that can be tough sometimes, because I got to always remind myself, you know, you was a kid at one time too. You was a mannish. My grandmama used to use the word mannish. You know, you was a mannish. I have to remind myself, you know, I was a kid at one time too. I still have to be a father in discipline, yes, but try to be a little bit more understanding about what he or she may be going through, what's going on in their minds, you know. But the spiritual guidance for me, it has been a game changer for me. I saved my life. I don't know how people do it without God. I don't. So that's very important, I believe.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember that word mannish. Well, yeah, he didn't turn 13. He get a little mannish. Yeah, I definitely remember that. So this question is for you, Sean. This is a little bit off the what I sent you. But anyways, being a high school coach, I know you have some kids that confide in you needing guidance. What approach did you take without getting too attached to them?
That's tough. Wow, that's tough. Early in my career, it was you were attached a lot, and you got your feelings hurt a lot of times. Now, as I got older and been in the game for a while, I wouldn't say too much attached, but you more had your teacher coach had, not your personal feelings. You want to make sure that you got it in the right area, and it's kind of like that. You have that little one, you're kind of just edging them on to go ahead, but you're watching from afar to make sure that they look back at you and have a sense of hesitancy. Then to step in just a little bit to help them a little bit longer. It's tough, especially being a coach, especially being the neighborhood and the community I'm in. It's really tough not to be attached to young people, especially nowadays. I feel like a lot of our young adults are lost and they don't have that guidance. But I know just from experience, if you get a little bit too attached, they could break your heart, and then you take that,
right,
it's that angst against the next young man or woman that wants to get your help, and you're kind of like, well, and I'm not that person. I see colleagues, and I see teachers that do that to kids, and I just don't like that. Now take your personal feelings out of it and kind of educate yourself and say, okay, I did this wrong last time. This time I'm going to coach and teach from here, but I'm going to keep a close eye. I just make sure I know when to step in at the right time to make sure I help these young people out. And I think that's the biggest thing you can do as a coach is, definitely give them your opinion, but listen to them first. That's the main thing. Listen to them first. Don't pass judgment right away, but listen to them first. Make sure you get the full understanding. And then at that point, I always say this: can I give you my 2 cents? And then, yeah, coach, go ahead, hit me with it. Okay, this is from what you told me, and from what I understand, this is what's going on. This is how I would approach it if I were you. Now you can do what you want with it, but this is my opinion to help you in this situation. And 9 times out of 10, they do that. They come back. A couple days later, I say, "Hey, how'd that go?" "Oh, coach, we good now. We all right. We straight." Or, "You know what, coach? I kind of didn't do it because." "Okay, well, sit down and talk to me a little bit more about what we can do to make sure that you're good in this situation." And it works, But again, you can't jump right in with your feelings right away. You definitely have to make sure you protect yourself. But again, you have the child's best interest at hand, and I think that's where you understand where you're going from there.
Yep.
Definitely.
And if I could jump in on that too, kind of what Sean was saying, kind of what I brought up earlier, it still takes a village, you don't want to jump in, with too much of your personal feelings, too much of your personal input, because everybody comes from a different place. You know what I mean? Mentally, physically, love, everybody's different, and you don't know that situation at home, so
right.
Big shout out to you, Sean, for taking care of the kids on that level. But you definitely have to protect your feelings and also protect yourself and know that, you don't know what's going on in his house. Kind of how Mike was, growing up, with the different emotions and things going on. People didn't know where he came from, but, he had his mentor step up and say, "Hey, man, think about this or do this way." So that's real good. You got to definitely feel out the person and know where they're coming from in order to try and, step in. Because I had a situation where, I had to step back because my personal feelings on a lot of things with, little brothers, little cousins, anything they look up to me, because of the work ethic that I come from and everything. And so, I'm kind of like a mentor for a bunch of people, and you just have to realize that, you're doing it for the love of God, and you can't expect the same reciprocation or things like that from people because, everybody's different. They don't reciprocate the same way. So you have to, just go in and like, hey, I'm giving this love because God has given this love to me to give to you, and not expect the same in return, because it can be, just a hug from a kid or something like that can be their reciprocation of that love. And, to somebody, a hug isn't anything, but to that kid, that hug is everything. What I mean? So everybody's not going to reciprocate the same way. So that's good to, basically just, do what God leads you to do.
Right. And you're right, Jeff, it's crazy that you said that because, when I was coming up as a young guy, coaching and whatnot, my mentor told me, he said, "Man, look, You're gonna have 5 kids that you're gonna ride with no matter what. They're gonna ride with you no matter what. And you're gonna have 5 more that are gonna break your heart. It's gonna happen to you, you know. And like you said, you know, you don't when you're younger, you want the reciprocation. You want the hug, the dap, the
Right.
thanks, coach. You know, as you get older and you've been in it for a while, I don't need that from you no more. I don't look for that anymore. Okay, you graduated, great job. You got a scholarship, great job. You're a better man and you're a husband now. There you go. You don't have to say, Coach Freeman, man, appreciate. I don't
Right.
need it no more. You know, because I know I've seen your growth. I've seen where you've been. I've seen you come from. And for me to have some type of influence on you to go right instead of left, I'm good with that, man. You know, I always tell people when I interview for head coaching jobs, I say winning a state championship is great. I would love to win a state championship, yes. But if I can have 30 to 40 young men who go out there and they come back with a degree, they come back with a career, they're better fathers, they're better husbands, they're better men in their community, I've done my job. I've done it. You know, winning that gold ball is awesome. But man, when you get to see kids on Facebook and they got their families now, or they made that job, or they're doing things that you taught them how to do, man, that's a win. You know, I won 40 state championships already now, if that was the case.
Right.
Know? So I think it's just different when you're able to look at it from a different mindset and not want the perks of it. I'm cool. I want to make sure that young man and woman is good in life, and that's what somebody did for me. And I'm putting that down. This is my gift, you know, from God to go ahead and mentor these young men and women, and I'm good with that.
Yep. Can I say something to Sean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're you know, early on in our conversation, we were talking about Ray Jackson, the guy that was there for me as a kid, you know, and you're the Ray Jackson to a lot of kids, you know.
That's right.
And brother, I mean, I'm serious, man. That's when I say I was a 15-year-old kid going into a gym crying with this man, literally crying, having to walk out and stop crying and come back in and play ball again. You know, that's money can't pay for that. You know, money can't pay for the mentorship you offer to these children, you know, just because, and you're doing it from a heart of love, you know, not just for a paycheck, because you don't have to do it. You can go there and coach football and go home. You don't have to take out time to mentor these kids and listen to them and offer your advice to them. You don't have to do any of that, but you choose to. And a lot of people work with children and they do it for a paycheck, you know, and they got to survive. I understand that, though, but it's something different about an individual who does it from their heart. You know, and that you are living out what that scripture says about being a father to the fatherless, you know, because like you said, growing, I'm pretty sure you have a lot of your young boys that you coach that fathers are not involved.
Right.
You know, and we don't realize as kids how much we're missing by them not being there. And so we cling on to any man that comes our way that, you know, but God bless you, bro, for what you're doing with these children, man. I mean, really, I mean, I believe that God rewards those. And like you said, you're not looking for a pat on the back or you're like, hey, coach, thanks for what you did. When you see that child graduate, they're husbands now, they've got children, man, that's got to be the most rewarding thing right there alone. You know, you may not always do it verbally from them, but when you see it, you know, and I believe that us as men, we should say these things to each other, you know, to one another. And hey, man, but really, you are the Ray Jackson, like I said, to a lot of children that, like I said, bro, that for me, it was something that I really, really, really needed in my life at that particular time. And Ray, like I said, I've been with Southwest now going on almost 22 years. My mentor, Ray Jackson, that I spoke of, the man ended up working for Southwest, Eric. You didn't know this. And he retired some years ago.
Okay.
When he got hired on in Oakland, California. I got hired on in Oakland, California in 1999. When I got hired on, shortly after that, Ray got hired on operations, and I was one of the ones who helped to train him in my department.
Wow. Get out of here. Wow.
And the man has retired with us. He has full-blown flight benefits. Whenever he flies to Phoenix, Arizona, he always comes when he looks for me. And but like I said, man, and God knew all of this. That's the most beautiful thing about it. What you do for these children, brother, you, man, and like I said, it's priceless. It's priceless.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. And you know, it's kind of what Jeff and Sean was talking about as far as, you know, letting your feelings get involved, and that's me, for me, it's a total different thing, because I defeated the stronghold of addiction in a few weeks. It'll be 18 years. And, I have a lot of people, that,
God bless
yeah, all glory to God, but, I have people that reach out to me, and it's like, man, I'm trying to start all over again. I don't know how to start, and for me, just like, I don't know if you saw the guy that posted earlier, he's like, Pops is on with me. He says, what's up? He is the son-in-law of my mentor. When I first came out here, this man took me under his wings, and it was crazy because I was just this lost kid, that needed to rebuild everything, and he would give me assignments to do and he'd check in with me. He waited for me to call him. He was like, I'm gonna need you to call me every day, 2 times a day, check in with me. I was lost. I didn't know what, and I'm like, why has I got to call you 2 times a day? But I did it. And what I didn't realize was he was trying to see if I was more in, he wanted me to make him interested in him.
Yeah.
So basically, if I wasn't reaching out to him, you're not trying to change. So with me reaching out to him every day, then basically, we started to build this relationship. And, he took me under his wing and he showed me so much. So now when people reach out to me, same thing, and I have some people reach out to me, my child is going through this. So I'm like, okay, hey, call me every day. They don't. They call me when they need something,
Yeah.
but then,
Right.
but on the other end, I have this guy in Virginia. He was going back and forth, and he finally got it together, and he messaged me. He was like, Eric, he called me cousin. We're not really related, but he called me cousin. He's like, man, I just celebrated 30 days clean, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. Cause I know how he's been battling, and he went from 30 to 60, from 60 to 90, from 90 to 6 months, somewhere between the 90 and 6 months. He was like, I'm going to take a class to get my CDL, and last month he hit that year clean. And, he now has his, he sent me a picture of his CDL license and, different scale, but just like you were saying about being able to see them build from, being broken, and that's the people that, I'd rather for you to call me at 2 a.m. and wake me up before you go out and make a mistake. Yeah. But at the same time, I can't let you pull me too far to the left if you're still stuck and you're not willing to move your feet. As long as I see you moving your feet, I'm there for you. You can call me any time of day or night because that's what it's all about. If you're showing me that you are trying to build, I'm going to help you lay bricks, brother. So, yeah. That's what it's all about.
Everything that we're all saying right now is really fathering somebody, offering this man something that he didn't get from maybe his dad, and that I think the question you asked earlier, you asked Brother Smith, Brother Maurice, about what's easy and what's hard. It's hard to watch someone that you love really like fall into a pit and you want to help them, but then you don't want to fall too deep into that pit with them, So
that's
when
right.
you pull back, our children, we got brothers that we want to help. I remember my mentor, Mike, and Eric, Mike McRoy that we work with, he said to me early on in our relationship, he said, Mike, if I know there's a hole at the end of that road right there, I know you're going to fall in it if you continue to do what you're doing right now. And if I'm telling you that, it's up to you to keep going or to stop, He said, I know what's in all of that. He said, I know what type of, if there's a nail pointing out halfway down, if there's a piece of glass that'll hit you in the toe, I've been in that pit. So why go if I'm telling you that you're going to hurt yourself? And that required me to really trust him, to believe him, and we gained that trust by him doing what? Sharing with me about what he had gone through and what he was currently going through, But it is really tough when you can see someone that you love, just really going in a direction where absolutely, especially if sin is involved. There is nothing good to come from sin. I don't care how good it feels. It could be an orgasm from having sex. It could be a high from doing drugs. Whatever it is, there is nothing good to come from sin. And that's the same thing we tell our biological children right now. Our children right now is that there is nothing good to come from it. You may think you're getting with it, but God sees and knows all. And what's done behind closed doors eventually is going to come to the light.
Yeah, that's right.
My daughter would always joke with my wife, Mama, you really talk to God, huh? Because God tells you all there. But it just really is tough seeing those that we love really just hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Really knowing when to pull back this. I really believe I've learned over the last 3-4 years that prayer is really powerful. It does.
Yeah.
When you can't just begin and do something, pray. Pray. Yeah.
Definitely. So, Pastor Smith, what do you feel are some of the most important life lessons to teach today's generation to help them be successful in life?
The first thing is, in this generation, they've lost the art of communication. And the unfortunate thing because of that is because of social media. They don't really know how to communicate with people. And that can be a detriment to them, especially, trying to, gain access to employment, gain access to education, and everything else. If you don't know how to communicate with people, man, you are going to be lost in this, and, I learned that early on. I grew up in a predominantly Black community. Let me just say all Black. And, every neighbor, pretty much a lot of the neighboring communities are all white. So when you would play them in sports, you don't really communicate, you don't talk. But when you get out into the real world or you interact with them, socially, and all you know is slang and you don't know how to speak proper English, then it poses problems because, the unfortunate thing, for us is that, we already have 2 strikes against us. Just being born, the color that we've been born, and for us being Black men. So, the stigma that comes with who we are, poses a lot of problems. The one thing that I hate that I always got, because my parents were, somewhat educated, but the thing that they always instilled in me was to be able to communicate with people. So here's the thing that I always got. Oh, you speak well. And I'm like, I speak well for what?
For what?
Oh, well, no, you're just, very well spoken. What else am I supposed to be? Because I'm supposed to learn how to, communicate and use the language that everybody else uses. But because of the stigma of, quote unquote Ebonics and, AAV, African American vernacular now, it poses a problem because, we're coming, and I'm not saying that, it's wrong to speak what we speak in our own culture, our slang. That's fine. But, I always instill in my children first that you could not speak slang in the home until you learn how to speak proper English. Once you understand what words mean and how they are, how effective they are, then you can begin to, deviate from, what the societal norms are. But communication is the most important thing. And I tell them all, I tell my children all the time, I tell the church all the time that, whoever controls the narrative or whoever controls the language controls the narrative.
Yes, sir.
And that's been our problems. I'm done at this. My father used to always have a book in the back of the car. And I'm like, why don't you ever touch that book in the back of the car? He says, I'll touch it when I need it. And I said, well, is it important? He said, no. He says, I got money in there. And I said, well, why do you keep money in a book in the back of your car? He said, because Negroes ain't going to steal a book.
I've never thought about it like that.
Never understood it. And I said, wow, that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. So yeah, that to me, that's probably the most critical thing in our development as people.
Okay.
And
anybody else want to chime in on that?
I want to touch. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Brown. Go ahead.
The Bible, for me, like I said, I've grown up all my life in church and hearing preachers preach the word of God, and just taking that, and that was it, but never really picking up the word for myself and reading it. You know,
Yes.
the Bible says that my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Knowledge of what?
Mhm.
You know, of the word of God. And if I never picked it up and read it for myself, you know, I never would have known some of the things that I know right now. And I'm continuing to learn as I continue to read it, you know. But again, it's if you don't, I think it was one of the movies. I don't know if it was Roots but if you want to keep something from a black man or from a black person, like you said, put it in a book.
Mhm.
I was hearing that as a kid hearing that, you know,
Yeah.
not take this book, young man, and read it. But if you want to keep it, but no one ever told me the reason why people were saying that, you know. But fast forward now, but being that everything that we need, yes, we can read other people's books, help self-help books, things like that can help us, yes. But everything that we need that's in the Word of God, and we know that it's there. But how do you? And you go by. All we go on is what someone else is saying to us, a prophet, a
That's right.
preacher, a teacher. But pick it up for yourself and read it. So there's so much power in reading.
Yeah.
And even there's a scripture that says, like, when you read, you may not understand. King James version was like the hardest thing in the world for me coming up as a kid while reading it.
Mhm.
But there's a scripture that says that as you read, as you sleep, the word is being sown into your heart. So I may not necessarily understand every single thing that I read, whatever verses I was reading, but the Holy Spirit brings it back to your remembrance when you need it, you know. But that came from me actually reading. So I had to
Right.
read.
Right.
I never saw my dad read a book. To this day, I love my father. I thank God for the relationship that we have. But my father was one growing up, he couldn't read, he couldn't write. And to this day, so reading was not something that was number one that went on in our household, you know. But just reading is so important, you know. And I know the world, the enemy through this world tells us to do everything else other than read, to watch social media,
That's
to
right.
get on Facebook, you know. But we just have to do the opposite of what the enemy is saying to us. We have to do the opposite of what we saw maybe our mothers or our fathers do, and believe that we can do it. We can do it, and we have to encourage each other to do that, and not just encourage and speak the words and show and say it, but show it. It really did me well to see my mentor Mike actually living out his life in his house, or me watching him, the ups, the downs, and the good, the bad, you know. But I wanted to see someone living out what I was trying to do, not just telling me, but I want to see you doing it, you know. And that meant meant a lot to me to see someone actually doing it. But reading, like you said, brother, it's just it's very, 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 very important.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And let me just add on to that. You know what you were saying about,
Yes.
you know, you growing up in church and you've always heard the word, but it's not necessarily that you read it, and that poses a problem in the black church. Period. It's not just you; it's the black church, because we're so stigmatized by, you know, the preacher being the one with all the knowledge.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of preachers, you know, kind of play on that.
Yes.
And that's why they have as much power and influence as they have. And I tell people all the time, you have to be very careful. You have to read the book, and you have to read for context. Because there are a lot of things that we see in the Bible, or we see in church culture, that the Bible doesn't necessarily ascribe to.
Amen.
But because, you know, and I'm not saying not to have trust in your pastor, or have trust in, you know, in your deacons, or whoever teaches in your church. But what I'm saying is that you have to be assured that, you know, for yourself, this is what I obtained from the word for myself, and not just hearing it from somebody. It took me a long time to do that. And actually, it took me to go to a predominantly white church to see it. Because, man, listen, when I tell you on Sunday mornings, I'm like, what? Is this a university or something? Because everybody walked into the church and they had a notebook. And in the notebook, they had, I mean, every notebook was filled, because they did hang on the words that their pastor said, but they also took what he said and they went home and they studied it for themselves. And they had these small study groups that they would have at each other's homes, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, in preparation for a Bible study on Fridays. So they would already be prepared before they went there. So it wasn't just the pastor and them, you know, hanging on every word, but it was them actually contributing to, you know what I'm saying, the conversation. And that's what, you know, we always want from people in our church. not just, to hang on every word that myself and my wife says, but to contribute to every conversation that we have. So, church for us was conversational. It wasn't me just sitting there talking. It was me literally, in sermons asking questions. If we're in this situation, what do you think, we need to do, according to what the word says? And when you speak the word back to yourself, it does wonders more than you just hearing it and trying to apply it. Amen. But literally speaking to yourself, because if you want to hear God speak, then open your mouth and speak the word. Mm-hmm. So it's very important. Yeah. It's very important that we understand that, that aspect, that we need to really read for ourselves. Like you said, it's a great point.
And when you said about speaking the word to yourself, I'm a big, whenever I read, I want to read out loud. Mm-hmm. Because I want to hear the words that's coming from the scripture. I want to hear. That's right. And I'm good at going to libraries. Thank God the library is back open again. I like to rent out to observe, not observe, but to get the study rooms basically. And it's very quiet in the study room. So I like to go when I like to read out loud because I really want to hear these words coming out of my mouth. When I'm reading them. That's right. Like you said, it really is. And I'm 46 right now. Like I said, I really started reading the word like I should about maybe 10 years ago. But just to remind and say to men that are listening to this, watching this, that it's never too late. That's if you're live and breathing right now, you can hear what we're saying right now. Yes, the world will tell you, the enemy through the world will tell you that you're getting old. It's too late to change. I'm this way, I'll be this way for the rest of my life. And if how you're being is not in alignment with what God wants you to be and what God wants you to do, it's not too late for you to change. That's right. And it's not too late for us to change. It's not too late for you to pick up that book and start reading it. It's not, no matter how slow or fast you may read, it's not too late.
That's right. Yeah. Never too late. Never too late. Long as you got wind in your body, it's never too late. Yep. Right. Sean, I think you said you wanted to chime in on that as well.
I was just going to talk from our youth standpoint, but I love what the conversation Mr. Smith, Mr. Brown were talking about as far as us being older and picking up. I'm finishing up my degree. Started when I was in my 20s, put some time off, figure out life and whatnot. Is it hard? Yes, very much so, very much so. But seeing that finish line coming up pretty soon is well worth it. But if I didn't communicate to those around me, if I didn't express that this is something I really want to do and had the right people in my circle to help me get there, I wouldn't have done it. I've never been a huge person, as myself for education and whatnot. But as you get into the educational field and you start to see now that the communication is lacking amongst our youth, it is lacking. They're social media crazed and they love to pick up their phone. In my classroom, phones go on backpacks and we talk and we communicate. And we sit down and we have discussion groups and discussion questions and whatnot. I force the communication without them knowing it. And then when they come the next day, it's, hey, coach, can we talk about what we talk? Yeah, let's jump in that real quick. I tell all my athletes, especially the guys that are being recruited, when that college recruit comes on campus, this is a job interview. Don't show up to school with sweats on, Crocs. You come to school with nice jeans, a nice T-shirt, and we literally sit down and we have a session where we're talking about handshakes and eye contact, and what questions, and how much is this going to cost my mother, or what's your campus like, and things like that, so they know how to communicate. I've seen young men lose scholarships based on just looking down or not knowing how to communicate to a person who's interested in your ability and your education to give you a free education. You lost that because you did not know how to communicate that. That's so right. For our kids these days, we kind of have to force looking, and this is old school. My grandfather taught me, you talk to a man, look him in his eyes, shake his hand firmly, okay? Understand what's being said. If you don't understand something, repeat that back. There's nothing wrong with that. I think our kids now, there's some sort of humility when they don't want to ask a question, or they're afraid to raise their hand. No, raise your hand. If I see a kid that's looking real hard and, what do you think about this, my man? Oh, well, I don't know is not an answer for me. We don't do I don't knows.
That's right.
Take a shot at it. If you're good, hey, right on. If not, we almost there. We almost there. Can anybody help him out? Help her out. I think that's huge when trying to get kids to open up now. And we have to do the same thing, especially Black men. We do the same thing.
That's right.
We have to be able to open up and speak more and say more and not be pushed to the side and say, well, we'll get back to no, I got something to say right now. And so I think the more stronger that we do that, the young ones will follow in behind us. So great conversation, my man. Great conversation.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, you just encouraged me, brother. You gave me ideas on how to even hold conversation with my children. I got a 9-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 15-year-old, but just sitting down having a random conversation with them, a random topic, And I'm always telling my kids when I ask them a question, if they say, I don't know it's not an answer.
That's it, right.
Tell me something, even if it's wrong, say something, but we have to. And I say, even as Black men, like you said, we have to have these conversations with our kids. Because when I think about my son, my daughter going through some of the things that I have gone through and seeing some of the things that I have seen, that breaks my heart. Just the thought of seeing them suffer the way I suffered and seeing. I have a bullet in my leg. I was shot when I was 18 years old, and my brother was shot in his head. My brother died. He died in front of me.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
To see gang violence, anything like that, but just the thought of them going through that, the thought of them seeing abuse in the house, that hurts me just thinking about it. But they have never had to see that before. The thought of them having to experience. Asked my older son one day. I said, "Have you ever? How do you know how it feels to not have your father say to you that he loves you?" He said, "No, Dad." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you tell me all the time." And man, and that to me, that was a drug to me. Just wanting to hear it. I'm 46 years old now. My dad just told me for the first time that he loved me 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And my son has never had to experience it. And I say that with all humility, but thank God he has never had to experience that. And then go looking for love somewhere else.
Right.
That's right.
We got to talk to them. Like you said, we have to talk as hard as it is sometimes. I'm saying this of myself. It's tough. It can be tough sometimes to want to have those conversations with them that you need to have with them. It can be tough because you don't want the rejection.
No, definitely.
I tell all my kids, man. I tell my players, I love them. I unfortunately lost several players. Coming up as a coach, I lost a couple kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if a kid doesn't say that, it's because they don't hear it enough.
That's right.
But when you say, "Hey, I love you. Take care of yourself this weekend." All right, coach, I love you too. Hey, man, cool. There we go. We got one. Because you don't know when that last time you're gonna see that child.
That's right.
Or
that's right.
To you tomorrow. So saying I love you, again, growing up as a young Black kid, you didn't hear that a lot. I heard from my mother and my grandmother. I didn't really hear much from my grandfather or even my father growing up. Like you just said, Mr. Brown, a couple of years ago, my dad just started talking again, and the conversation ends with "I love you, son." I love you, Bob. And we go from that. But for me, last couple of years, man, I tell my kids in the practice, man, "Hey, I love you. Take care of yourselves. Hey, I love you. I'm here for you. Call me if you need me. I'm here for you." And for those kids to look at you and say, "Man, like, Free, why you always say I love you?" Because I do.
That's right.
I genuinely love you. I'm making sure you're all right. You're good. And it's a great feeling when they the bat for you.
Definitely. And it's funny. It's funny how this discussion chimed in, and touched on, the "I love you," because as you were saying, Mike, me, I grew up, in the house, my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, I met my dad when I was 33, but both of my grandfathers had already passed away when I was born. So I didn't get to be able to receive that knowledge, from my grandfathers. That was a big thing back when I grew up. A lot of my, childhood friends, they had their grandfathers, that would give them knowledge, even though I would go around sometimes, but they'll be like, "Whose boy is that?" And they didn't really talk to other people's kids, like talking about it, so, and then when it came to my mom, when we grew up, it was basically, I'm working hard, I'm clothing you, I'm feeding you. So that was their way of showing love, You know, we didn't get the I love you, I love you,
That's
I love
right.
you, you know, and you were scared to ask stuff because you might get screamed at because they worked so much. When after they fixed dinner, they were trying to lay it down. So,
Right.
you know, it's like you didn't have a big opportunity to ask questions. You know, you only basically talked when you were talking to. Other than that, you
That's
know,
right.
clean your room. You know, I was out in the country, you know, take the trash out, rake the yard, cut the grass, yada yada, you know, come in to eat, be in the house before the street lights come on, or I'm gonna whoop your butt. That's pretty much what it was. But you know, now, you know, a lot of, you know, it's still a lot of houses that's single parents, but at the same time, you have that auntie or uncle or grandparent or someone that you can confide in, you know. So I hate it when you see an individual and communication is not there, and they, you know, they feel like they don't have anyone, you know, to talk to. That's why, you know, I'm big on telling people I love them. You know, Mike and I, we work together. You know, Mike and I, we didn't cry together. You know, we didn't talk, you know, standing in front of passengers all over the place. And we're so much, you know, we're talking and it's so heartfelt. Tears are streaming down. We don't care. We don't care because, you know, we're just in the moment and we're talking. I don't have a problem telling people I love them. And trust me, when I tell you, you know, I mean it, you know, and, you know, I hate to see kids that's, you know, really, really hurting today, and they feel like they can't open their mouth and talk to people, because everyone should take the time to just sit back and hear that kid out. Just let them talk. You know, we were talking about it earlier. Just let them talk. Sit there, be quiet, let them talk. You know, let them get it out. And then you can give them, you know, advice on what it is they're going through. You know, and, you know, like I said, sometimes, you know, you have kids that they take their lives because they just feel like they're just at the end of their rope and they don't have anyone to turn to. You know, so I'm big on reaching out to kids. You know, I'm always reaching out to my nephews, you know, little cousins, what have you, checking in on them. You know, if I see them post something on social media that shouldn't be there, I'm gonna get in their butt. Hey, you need to take that down, and don't let me see you post nothing like that again. You know, don't be degrading any females. You know, same thing with the female cousins. I'll get in on them. You know, don't be posting no videos like that. Don't be talking like that. You know, and just because they know their parents are not on social media, well, I am. So you know, you had to bring them up on it. You know, then they'd be like, oh, uncle, you know, and I better not go to try to find your page and I found out I'm blocked, because now you really got an issue. You know, but yeah. You know, we definitely have to stay connected, watch what they're doing, you know, and make sure, you know, they're going down the right path. Right. We have to. Right. We have to. That's so this has been a great discussion, guys. Great discussion. You know, we touched on some things that I pray that somebody that was listening today, you know, it definitely touched them and gave them guidance. But before we go, I just want everybody to chime in. I'm gonna start with Jeffrey first. You know, how do you intend on leaving a legacy?
I intend on leaving my legacy, kind of, you know, just basically leading by example, and trying to show my kids a different way. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. It wasn't I didn't live in a hood, but it wasn't the best place for me to raise my kids. I wanted them to see, you know, a different part of the world, because I, you know, joined the Marine Corps at 21 and, you know, traveled a little bit and was able to see different environments, different things like that. And, you know, basically just having them travel and see different things to basically get out and be the best that they can be. So basically leaving a legacy by example, communication, a lot of things that we talked about in the discussion today. All that'll play a part in, you know, leaving a legacy with the girls, or maybe a boy. So
let's get a boy.
Yeah, well, I feel it as my uncle used to say. I feel it all up in my pinky toe that God is tired of you and He's gonna send you that boy this time. Yes, sir. So, Pastor Smith, what about yourself? How do you intend on leaving a legacy?
One of the most important things to me is consistency. Because that's one thing that growing up, and like just hearing you guys, and especially from the culture that we grew up in, and the places that we grew up in. Sometimes seeing consistency isn't always the things that are consistent usually isn't things that are good for us. So my thing is always being consistent, especially in my relationship with God. And I would love for my children to see that, because the Bible talks about training up a child, but I don't know anybody that's trained. A lot of times the unfortunate thing for us is that we're trained by people that don't have the experience that they need. So being consistent for me is a very important thing. Being dedicated to whatever goal or whatever things that I set my mind to, so that my children and children in church, children in the community can see that dedication is a very important thing. That once we set our mind to it, and once we say that we're going to do it, that we can follow it through. And that to me is one of the most important things that especially talking about legacy.
Good deal. Good deal. And Mike.
For me, servanthood is what I'll say. I want to leave this earth, and when people mention my name, they think about serving. When they hear my name, they want to go give to someone. And why that? Because he came here to serve. And I believe that, the Bible says, give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together with men given to your bosom. God is a reward for those who diligently seek him. I want to leave a legacy of serving, and not just people who look like me, sound like me, have the same skin color as me. Jesus came to serve all people. He says, love God, love yourself, and love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And he said, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. He didn't say love the black man, the white man, the Asian man. Love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And how do I love myself? I want to help people, because if Jesus was here right now, the whole reason why I even started feeding the homeless and going to the streets, because I knew that's where Jesus would be. Jesus had an opportunity to be with the kings and the castles and in the penthouse, we will say today, in the $1 million house, but he chose to be with the poor. He chose to go with the people that no one else wanted anything to do with. So I really want to leave a legacy of servanthood. And that can mean so many different things,
That's right.
So many different ways that we can give to people and love people. We can give our time, our talent, our treasure. It's not just about money and things and material.
That's right.
But you give a listening ear to somebody. You give an encouraging word to somebody, and I just want to be, because all those things I just mentioned there, Jesus has done for us and continues to do for us, And so just servanthood is the legacy that I want to leave for people.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Brother Sean.
Oh, man. First and foremost, all three brothers before me, man, that is awesome. From fatherhood to being consistent, to being a servant. Those are all things I want to embody in one. Hopefully when I have some little ones and they grow up and the kids I've coached and mentored, just Sean Freeman was the person that give you the shirt off his back. If you ever needed me for something, I'm here, always there. I hope that stays consistent with all my kids. I hope they know that me giving my shirt to you is a servitude. I don't walk around no shirt if I need to help you out. And hopefully one day I'll have some babies around here and understand that dad is kind of person where he'll do anything he can for you if you're willing to work hard for it, and at the end of the day, my time is up. I'm just that guy that would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it.
Amen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good. And pretty much what all four of you said, pretty much that's me all the way. I can take a piece of everything that all four of you said about leaving a legacy behind. That's me. Just that servant's heart. When I started this podcast, I was, telling my man that worked behind the scene, my assistant producer, I was getting a little discouraged, because I was getting caught up in the numbers and how many people was, watching every week. But every Sunday night or Monday morning, I wake up and somebody then inbox me telling me about how it blessed them, how they was about to go left or how they was about to give up and how it blessed them. And I immediately heard God say, don't get caught up in the numbers. As long as you're blessing one person,
That's right.
you are doing my work and you are doing a good work. So for me, it's just about, having that servant's heart and just, trying to be a blessing to help somebody that's, down and out. Like Mike said, letting them know, you're never too old to rebuild. You're never too old to start over. Humble yourself and just, build a foundation of faith, and you can get through whatever it is you want to get through. First of all, you got to believe in yourself. Don't get discouraged with other people, because first of all, we didn't promise this person for so long, I'm changing. Of course, eventually they're going to say, here we go again.
Yeah.
So now you're discouraged, but you got to look at your track record where you done told this person for the past 6 years you were going to change, and you haven't changed nothing. So, it's a beautiful thing, so that's just me. I'm just like, as long as I can bless, be a blessing to one person. So that's my motto every day that I wake up. As long as I can be a blessing to one person today, I've done God's work. So yeah. But yeah, once again, guys, I love you guys for coming on. This is Father's Day. Sports is on today. I reached out to you guys and nobody had to think about it. Everybody immediately said yes, so that definitely spoke volumes to me. Mike, I know you went to work today, and I know work was work, and you could have easily came home and just went to sleep, but you came home and was all ready for it. So, I definitely, appreciate you guys, for coming on doing this. This is not going to be the last time. We definitely going to meet up again. We're going to do it again. So, I definitely appreciate you guys. Don't go nowhere. We're going to chat after this is over with. Thank you, everyone that stayed on. I know we went a little longer than we normally go today, but I thank everyone that still stayed on to the end. Appreciated the comments, that's been dropping through. Thank you guys, everyone that chimed in. Before you go, don't forget, you can go to my website and purchase one of these shirts here. My life is under construction. So go to the website, grab you one of those shirts. Also, as I state every week, I'm trying to purchase 1,000 books so I can go to different halfway houses and institutions and leave books behind to be a blessing to help people rebuild their lives. So if you want to go to my website and go to that campaign page and drop a donation, it'll be greatly appreciated. No amount is too small. We just trying to, purchase some books and be a blessing to drop them off to some people to help them. So definitely do that. You can also, if you want just one book and you haven't gotten it yet, you can also go to that same website, LifeStruction.com, and purchase your book. Also, you can connect with me on Instagram or what's the other one? YouTube. All of the platforms is the same thing, LifeStruction with Eric. So connect with me on that as well. Other than that, I thank you guys for tuning in. I pretty much had asked what fathers was streaming today. And only one person was obedient and typed their name in, which I can see it's a whole lot of other brothers, but only one person, and that was Brother Derek Coffey that did an awesome job a few weeks ago. He came on and spoke. So send me your address, Derek, and I'm going to send you this awesome dad shirt.
Yeah.
It pretty much just got all of the great things that dads do. So inbox me your address, and I'm going to send that shirt to you. Thank you for being on today, and happy Father's Day to you and all the other fathers that's on. And before I go, my associate producer, made me well, he's trying to make me tell a joke. So I'm gonna ask you guys. I'm gonna ask you guys this joke, and I'm gonna see if anybody get it. So, how do you find Will Smith in a snowstorm?
Fresh Prince.
Oh, okay.
I'm lost.
That's it. You look for the Fresh Prince. Yeah. You say you look for the Fresh Prince. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Look. It was too funny. He was like, you need to tell a joke. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but some things about me never change, and my jokes wouldn't be suitable for this platform. So, yeah, definitely. But with that being said, brothers, thank you so much. But like I said, stay on. We're going to end this thing, and then I'll thank you guys again. But thank all of you for tuning in. Make sure you come back next week. We'll have another great discussion. Next week is going to be, because this is Men's Health Month. So next week we're going to have a good brother on that's going to be talking about men's health. So that's going to be really good. Other than that, love all of you guys for streaming today. You have a blessed week. And remember, wake up each day, roll out of bed, smile from your heart, walk out of your house. Because trust me, that once you smile from your heart, it creates a glow. That's going to be a blessing to somebody's life. They're just going to look at you and you don't even have to say a word out of your mouth. Just because you're walking with God's glow on you, it's going to speak volumes and it's going to brighten their day. So remember, smile from your heart. Have a blessed week.